Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. It's Happy Friday for me. Happy Thursday afternoon for who I am welcoming to the show, Ashley Heron. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Good to be here.
Yeah, you too. What time is it actually for you?
4 o'clock.
4
So
o'clock. Los
close
Angeles,
to,
right? Or have I got that
yeah,
wrong?
Los Angeles.
Los
Exactly.
Angeles.
Yep.
Yeah. So weird. I was walking, I keep talking about taking my dog for a walk, and I was caught in the rain the other day up at the shops, and I saw this big flashing Los Angeles $1,200 return tickets. And I've been manifesting that I want to get over to the US. I was like, oh, there it is again. So,
Yeah. It's a sign, literally. So
it is a sign. It is a sign. So, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here, and hello to all the listeners. We are going to have quite the conversation today, and so let's just get on into it. And I want to start with Ashley has on his LinkedIn profile, and we had a very cool conversation about this the other week, building hard things for interesting problems. And I really feel like that is going to influence a lot of our conversation today, right? So because it is hard to build right now, and it's like, how do you build hard things for interesting problems? And it's like finding the interesting problems right now in this world, which is there's a lot of sea of sameness, AI, all the things that are happening right now. And so we'll come back to that. You are the founder and managing director of Comma8. You are also the proud father of two young boys, you and your wife. You've got a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, so that no doubt keeps you on your toes. What are their names?
Jackson and Liam.
Jackson and Liam. Very cute. Very, very cute. But is it like gosh, so yeah, 2 under 3 years. That must just be completely just change your world into
Yeah, it
those.
wasn't busy enough, so figured we'd add some more chaos to it.
Totally, totally, totally. You operate actually at the intersection of technology, infrastructure, and market evolution, and you build systems designed for businesses navigating growth beyond off-the-shelf solutions. You had a career in the music industry, and you helped also scale a $100 million agency, spent years building custom digital infrastructure for some of the world's largest fitness and wellness brands, drumroll, including Club Pilates, TRX and Crunch. That's really huge. I do love health and wellness. I could talk to you about that for hours. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. Your work is focused on the operational layout most businesses never see. And I think this is really important, right? Because it is true. A lot of businesses don't look under the hood or the bonnet of the car. And so that is around the platforms, integrations, loyalty systems, and data architecture required to make large scale customer experience actually function. And so now is no code. There's so many no code platforms, automation tools, and AI is beyond rapidly reshaping the market. It has reshaped the market, if you like. You are now seeing a deeper shift emerging, not just in technology, in perception also. Businesses no longer want to start from scratch. They want adaptable systems that are integrated with flexibility and speed. And so that realization has reshaped, and I know you're at another inflection point with the direction of Comma8 and what's next. And so that comes back to these hard problems and, interesting solutions for customers. So today, the company focuses on building strategic Martech infrastructure for growing fitness and wellness brands, bridging that gap between DIY platforms and fully custom development. Most importantly, you reflect a broader tension playing out across the industries right now. How do businesses evolve when the market changes faster than the models they were originally built on? I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, I think you've identified both some success in the past and sort of the challenge that we face now. I sort of imagine myself having many lives over the years, from music in Nashville to really sort of navigating paid social at a very large scale agency to sort of refocusing into health and wellness now. I feel like I've been fortunate in I guess my journey, or maybe it's just a product of being like a younger millennial, that like every role that I've been in has been sort of like navigating a wave. So music was really about navigating what is social media and how do we engage. We started MySpace pages and Facebook pages and service our first songs to iTunes. And then that was incredible because you had this amazing rise of like introducing technology into like a permanent medium that was, records and CDs and sort of moving into digital. And then navigated, found my way to Los Angeles, where I am now, and sort of navigated the paid social world. So really sort of entered in like what is paid media, becoming like a very first Facebook marketing partner, uh, being one of the very first 4 badge PMDs, which means basically we could run advertising on all the major social networks, and then navigating sort of into my current role, which was started primarily because. Um, we had gone through the process of growing the past business. We exited that business in 2016 and sort of worked as a part of that publicly traded company for a while, and sort of noticed that like we were doing a lot of things, but never like specific discipline where we could create sort of like very repeatable processes or very
Yeah.
repeatable knowledge in our organization. And so Comma8 was really born from we were doing a lot of multi-location work, especially in the health and wellness category at the other company. And we just felt like there was an opportunity to standardize like the lexicon of what we do so that regardless of who you worked with in our organization, that you had this discipline. And we also felt like health and wellness in our category shared similar infrastructures, no matter if you're Club Pilates or if you're Crunch or if you're EOS or if you're TRX, you tend to share like general underlying infrastructures for your business. And you tend to want to scale out of them. You tend to want to find something that makes your discipline or your product special and market, that you're differentiated from other Pilates brands like Jet Set, or your different Club Pilates differentiated from Pilates Addiction, or the opposite, that there's customization. And so we felt like we could live in that space very specifically of saying, how do I build repeatable processes, but how do I allow these companies to sort of not have to re-educate us on their current infrastructures in order to be successful in their own way and to find their own unique. And that was great for a while. We sort of navigated COVID. We started with a very small group of team, and then COVID shut down everybody in boutique fitness and everybody in big box gyms, and so everybody needed a digital solution overnight. And that was
Yeah.
really, good for our business in like a tragic way, and that we were expertise in delivering digital
Yeah.
solutions when needed digital solutions. I think the sort of you touched on this a little bit. The challenge with that in the past couple of years is that having a website and having paid media and having lead forms and having text automations like is the ante. You are not in business without those capacities, without those functionalities. And so it became increasingly difficult to like win large transformative projects because people had them. They had a
Yeah.
website, an app, they had these things. And so you were trying to basically convince them that tool or that service was like could be better, it could be insufficient. And instead of deploying capital to something in studio or deploying capital to training or deploying capital into advertising, you're asking them to redirect into technology, which is like maybe obvious to some people, but like hard for others, right? And we sort of saw this maturation in our space of like software as a service, where instead
Mm.
of building a bespoke app, you were leveraging the member management system's white label app that you could customize. Instead of building a bespoke website, you were platforming off of templates on WordPress or Squarespace or HubSpot. And we sort of found this like it's good enough strategy, I think would be
Yeah.
a way of saying it, and not in like a negative way, like wildly sufficient, but it sort of like started to like pull away from our business to the point where we literally had to transform what we were doing and the type of services that we were going to market with. Instead of saying, "Hey," I used to frame it like this. I used to frame it as like, if you can ask me a "Can you blank" or an "I need blank" question, we can likely deliver that. Like, can you help me reimagine my customer journey, or can you help me build an app, or I need a landing page, or I need a paid media campaign? Those were very easy questions to answer. But the market sort of moved away from that to being like, I have this thing, can you help me modify it? Because I'm unwilling to unsee the technology. And so our journey has been, um, you know, growing very fast during COVID, providing large scale technical initiatives, to having to meaningfully transform our offering to providing that baseline product that they can then iterate, as opposed to like drafting off of other people's product, to now like being totally disruptive by AI and introducing a bajillion other questions about like, what does marketing technology mean in the age where, anybody with a free Tuesday afternoon and
Oh,
relatively intricate services can build the point solution that I would have otherwise turned into a
yeah.
product, or I turned into tickets and et cetera. So I think we find ourselves, as you described, like in a very transformative space. And I think a lot of people in our category are. I think a lot of
Mm.
people in marketing technology are trying to understand like what they sold is not what they sell today, and what their employees do today is not what they did 6 months ago. And the method in which we bill is not the same method. If I do work faster because of AI, that's not very good for a time and materials business. So I find myself a little bit more philosophical today about like what does it mean, and I don't know if I have the answers for that, but I can at least describe what we're going through and
Yeah.
sort of talk about like the things that I think we're narrowing down on, and the things that are like wildly uncertain for us in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, it's fascinating listening to you, just like the evolution and the journey, and kind of like COVID was a peak period, and then for a lot of people it was a really like you did use the word tragic, and it wasn't a fun time, and a lot of businesses didn't survive in COVID, and yet you spiked, and now you're at this inflection. I call it an inflection point where it's like, what do we do now, and what's next, and I was saying to you pre-show, there's quite a few themes that have been coming up, especially this week. And one thing that's really popping up for me as I'm talking to you is that, we talk about speed, and and you've talked a lot around processes. I love the way we've got the different way of saying that based on our
Sure.
our accents, for example. I think that the watch out for me is that we're losing sight a little bit of strategy and the North Star, because we're creating almost like these quick fixes to problems, and actually are they actually really solving something that is tangible for what the customer or the consumer really needs? And so then the other part that comes up for me also is almost like, so if a lot of businesses now have the ability to sit down on a Tuesday afternoon, and I won't lie, I've been playing with Claude Code myself, even though I'm not a coder. I'm some days going like having meltdowns, going, I don't know what I've just done. I've hit a button, and I'm like, ah. However, I'm giving it a whirl, right? Is there like this new subtle form for curation, like coming in and, being a curator of, okay, looking what they've done, and then being able to come in and curate it, and I guess that's where strategy comes back in, because I just feel like, I'd love your thoughts on this. It's just feel like everyone is in such a hurry. It's like, yeah, let's just get back to strategically. What are you aiming for here?
Right. Yeah. I tell this to the team all the time, and I think that's the comfort that I find in AI is that like it's really good news for the thinker. It's really bad news for the non-thinkers, right? Like for the people who are sort of doing routine, repeatable processes, like that work is effectively going away. But like for the people who are doing the last 20% or doing the last mile, or for thinking about the delivery, I feel like it's a really positive thing. We the drudgery of the 80% is eliminated, or sort of on its way towards it. Like to your point, you can push a button wrong and it doesn't quite work. And we're finding a lot of clients are doing like the bulk of like the otherwise heavy lifting stuff, the prototyping, the thinking, the form management, the process of like getting to the thing that they want to build, which used to be incredibly time consuming. That's sort of like handed off to us, and we're just sort of rounding the corners. We're helping with the last mile. We're sort of being the strategic that makes sure that we're doing the right thing, and then we're helping to productize it. We're turning it into actually production code, and I think that is such like an amazing enablement vehicle. But I think it's less like maybe I would say it's less like slowing down and more like getting time for the thing that was otherwise
Yeah,
narrow, right?
I
It
call
was
out.
like it's like freeing out the thinking, or freeing out the delivery, or just focusing on the things that matter is like such an incredible thing to do. But we even see in our business, I call it kind of like the garbage patch, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch of ideas, that we're having client services members build things that are solving a specific client problem today that might not be a problem tomorrow. And like, do we continue to maintain it? Do we continue to invest in it? Is it as disposable as a Google document used to be, or a Google slide used to be from a year ago? And I think we're struggling a little bit with what does that mean, and what is our output? What is the expectation that our clients expect from us now, and where do we spend more time? But I I think in some ways like it's affirming to the strategic and to the thinker that that's where our time should have been all along. And
100%.
and we just didn't have the capacity to do it because we didn't have the time to do all that, you know?
No, it's 100%, and I like your distinction between, you know, AI is good for the what did you say? For the thinkers, and, you know, then there's almost like I was listening to this, talk back on radio yesterday driving to a meeting and talking about cognitive offload. I hadn't heard that term before, and, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the watch out is we're offloading all our thinking to AI, and
Yeah.
so then we're not thinking at all, and I thought that was fascinating, and that, like, you know, what you were just talking around the people that aren't thinking, they're just handing it over, and so there for me, there is I see a massive opportunity for exactly that, you know, for the last mile, the 20% to really hone in on this strategic piece because that
Yeah,
is
and
never
it's such an enabler. I sort of like to frame it of like AI as an empowerment and an accelerant for something that you're really good at. Like it makes my job like I am better at my job as a result of it. It's like tragically bad for the people who are trying to be an expert in something that they are not, because that's sort of where the slop comes in, and that's where sort of like the lack of thinking sort of is unprepared. That I think it is hard because it's such a broad spectrum of enablement. I can ask it to do it. It's literally a chat box. It's not UI. It's just like input instruction, output result. And there's actually some really great articles about how some of the AI companies are like trying to prevent the machine from just starting. Because if you've ever done like a cloud project or chat sheet project, like sometimes it'll just like start working. And you're like, no, 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 I'm not ready for you to start working. And like, there's like such
same
there's,
thing with it the other day.
yeah,
So
there's such like desire for it to get done. Companies are really, these companies are really struggling with that because if the box feels so transformative, and if anybody can type anything into the box, and if anybody thinks they can do that, that can lead to like a false like sense of like an empowerment enablement, as opposed to like using it to refine what you're good at, or using it to be better at something that you're not. And so that's where we're really trying to say, like, especially to like our clients, both for our products and for our the products that we build for clients, is like to let it take you as far as it can take you, but don't try and cross that next bridge. Like continue to leverage expertise. Just
yeah,
like many things in life that I may try to fix my car, but I'm ultimately going to take it to a mechanic before like I want to drive on a road trip, right? And I think that that framing is really hard because that open chat box is so empowering and so wide open. But I don't know. Maybe I'm the like reserved skeptic of like AI empowerment, but I just feel like it's like many tools in life that have transformed agriculture, whether it's the
yeah,
plow or
100%.
transformed transportation, like the airplane. Like it's becoming it's becoming a utility, and it's becoming the new hammer. And I think if we treat it like a hammer and we deploy it correctly, it is amazing, the most transformative piece of technology in decades, if
Yeah.
not my lifetime. I don't know if I don't know that's a big statement, but it is certainly impacting the work output in a way that I have not seen a tool impact my work output in maybe since like social media was introduced.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I was doing some editing last night, and I was just putting 2 things together, and I just like, even just the, co-piloting, and I was like, "That would have taken me hours and hours to try and work out in the old in the old world, I say." And yet I just had one conversation, and I did it within, like, 3 minutes. I was like I actually was jumping around the house going, "This is incredible. I can do," like,
I
because
know.
so efficient, right? I wanna talk to you a little bit about you called out meaning and meaningful, and I wanna dive into that a little bit because I wanna connect it to your whole thing around building hard things for interesting problems.
Yeah.
What
I
do you
mean,
and what's the meaning behind all of that as well for
yeah,
you?
I think it's maybe like a statement to myself as much as it's like a message to like the types of projects that I want to do. Like uh, there are a lot of things that we can do on the planet. There's a lot of things that we can do, but I kind of feel like at least my scope and my desire and the work part that I do is that we're not sort of settling, that we're sort of continually challenging ourselves to do like really hard things. But they have to be like they have to like motivate you in some way, and they have to be interesting. And it's sort of a little bit of a riff. I don't know if there's a story. President Obama, U.S. president, obviously, had a plaque on a desk that like hard things are hard, I think is what it said. And it's also a book. And I just sort of I've always resonated with that because it's so easy to get trapped in like, shouldn't it be easier, or should it, should that should I be in the place that I am at, or like what sort of how can my, and to some extent, like, AI is like such I sort of attribute to like the laziness of humans to some extent, and that like we are just building another tool so that we don't have to do other things, but like that human ingenuity is like incredibly powerful. But I think there's something to be said about doing hard things in life, and for better or for worse, like I feel like I'm typically on the hard side, and maybe that's because I'm in a service business, and like service businesses are going to be hard. But, for me, it's a little bit of an affirmation of, like, what I aspire to do for, like, my own self-worth, but also, like, the type of projects and the type of work that I like to find for my company. And I've been fortunate to, like, have those along the way, and can celebrate those both through, the work that I do, publicly, and celebrate the work that I've done for people, but also you had mentioned earlier, we do so much work behind the scenes, and
100%.
that's great. To be the foundation that doesn't need to be seen to be
Yeah,
value is
totally.
important.
Yeah. Do you think this is one of the hardest problems you're solving right now for your business? Like, do you feel like this is one of like, do you feel like
Percent. Yeah, like what is it, and this is like maybe a statement I should probably have an answer to, but I don't know if I can. Is like, what does it mean to be marketing technology in 2026? Like, I think you can have a perspective about that. I certainly have an opinion about that, but it just feels like it's unknown. It feels like it's changing. It feels like the things that people asked for 6 months ago are not the things that they asked for today. The work product that we do 6 months ago is not the product that we do today. That the the velocity in which even people feel as if your work has value has changed, right? Clients are like, I could do that in Lovable in 15 minutes. It's like, yeah, but could you have like solve for ADA and data compliance and integrating with your data lakes? Like, there's this hype on X or Twitter or whatever we call it these days, or both, that sort of that seems to portray that it is just simple, that it can be done simply by stating it. And that is like the Grand Canyon size gap between the reality of it.
yes.
We've even introduced a virtual employee in our organization, and just getting we call him Anton. Anton was the AI and the show Silicon Valley that like Guilfoyle created, and so
Yeah.
it's sort of like a nod for that, and it's a little bit like of an unknown and can be like disruptive. But like getting Anton at our organization to build an on-brand deck is like without mistakes, or with small mistakes. So we still want like people to guide the process. It's shockingly more difficult than you would otherwise
Takes
see on
hours.
X,
It takes
right?
ages. You just a const
100%.
it's a curation, it's constantly refining and sharpening. Tell me about that, like, in terms of relationships, because you said, like, clients will often say, "I can do that unlovable in 15 minutes." Do you think there's a tension point as well with regards to, Martech? Like, I think it's across all sectors. I don't think it's just Martech, for example. Do you think it's causing a bit of friction between the relationships that we once had with our clients and our customers? Because and I'm not just kind of making this as a blanket statement. I'm just where I'm going with this is when you get that, like, oh, we can just do this on Lovable,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Yeah.
well, what am I? Like, am I just this
I
transaction
know. I feel like this is,
service?
back to your question of like, do I know what marketing technology is anymore? Before, like that's not a conversation that we would have had, and I think it's forcing us to frame answers that we did not know we were going, or for questions we didn't know we were going to be asked.
Mm,
And it forces us to revalidate our expertise or our knowledge or our big scope or our big picture in ways that are like challenging, right? Because you believe that you are an expert that's sort of devalued by the gurus on LinkedIn and the hype men and women on X. And while it is still a transformative tool, and it still can remove the mundane, and it can still like help a client get from point A to point B, there is still a- and I don't know if this is like this isn't a forward-looking statement, because I don't know if it's like in the future, but today there's still a giant gap between that. And so I think what we're struggling with is like, what is our value and what is our work, and
yeah,
where do and how do we position ourselves to be value as opposed to being uh, as opposed to pushing buttons, because I think it's very easy to like attribute our work product to be like, I have know-how, and I feel like know-how is going away, right? Like, I sort of describe like, what is our moat is one of the questions I think we wrestle with too. And our moat used to be know-how. Our moat used to be, I know the button to push to do the thing, and
Yeah.
that is going away. It's certainly going away, not maybe not gone. And so I think what we're trying to move towards is like our value is in knowing when to push the buttons as opposed to what buttons to push. And
Yeah.
how do we frame that? And how do we make sure that that has value? And anytime, strategic and knowledge is being positioned in the market, like it can be easily devalued in terms of like the revenue associated with it, or the capacity to, make money as a business and pay employee salaries. And so I think there's just a general shift in what is our moat? How do we add value to the market? And what does that look like in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years? And while I have a perspective on some of it, I think I am also leaving, plenty of blank canvas to to sort of respond to like how things go, because it just feels unreasonable to confidently predict the future in May of 2026.
I agree. And, I have this amazing coach, and I actually talked to her a couple of weeks, and she used to say to me all the time, "Observe, not absorb, be." And I
Yeah,
feel like we're
excellent.
really in this observing, not absorbing, because there is so much hype, right? And it does come back to knowing when to, or knowing how to push the buttons, and at what stage and what time. In terms, I thought that was me then, and I was like, it's generally me. So
I'm
when
gonna I'm gonna have to like print that out, and because I think it's so hard to not act, and so hard to not just respond. But I
yeah,
do believe we are in observe, and observe with value, right? Like I
yeah,
still
I
provide
tell you,
value.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
sort
a
of the
really good one.
nature.
I remind myself of that all the time, because we get so caught up in the hype of it all ourselves, and then we kind of go, "Oh, I've got to work that out." Based on that, with a problem like this, and working through what does it look like, going forward, and like you say, it's hard to predict anything right now. Who knows what it'll be like by the end next month, let alone by the end of the year. How do you give yourself? I'm gonna just I mean, I'm gonna use this word grace. Like, seem you're a high performer. You've been super successful. You continue to be super successful. You're clearly an amazing partner, father, all of it. This sort of time that we're in, it's I'm going a bit deep here. It can make you question everything, and question everything about yourself and who you are. And then you've got a team, and so then the team of everyone's feeling unsettled, and so you're holding it together for everyone. So how do you allow yourself the space to not have all this pressure of, I have to solve this immediately? Because it is not a solve that you can, if you are truly going to, this is me talking about, like, I look at it this way. I'm like, I'm not going to get caught up in it. I am going to do it in a way that is regenerative, not just sustainable. And so how do
Yeah.
you get yourself in how do you keep yourself in that
Oh man.
mindset? Because some days it's just like, "This is so, you know what? I'm ready to give it all up," you know?
Yeah, I feel like every other Tuesday is the day that I feel like I'm gonna give it all up. But I think I don't, how would I describe it? I believe that it is, I give myself the ability to be down at times, because I think that allows me to reflect on like what I do next. And not down, maybe isn't the right word, but I think I give myself the latitude to be like overwhelmed by it. Because if you just say like I can't, like you'll find yourselves like being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
And but the thing that I've been doing lately, which I think has been helpful, is I've just been trying to form an opinion for today and like write it down and say like, today how do I feel about virtual employees and staffing? Today how do I feel about our team doing these things? Today how do I feel about those things? And maybe it's not like a daily process, and I've been writing about it weekly on Substack, but I've just been forcing myself to like have an uncomfortable conversation with myself, like what do I feel like this is impacting my business and what I do next, but allowing myself to like respond to the cycles. Like the other day I was writing some things down that like I disagree with today. 2 weeks ago, I wrote it. I was like, the hype is gone. AI is utility. And then this week, I'm like, absolutely not. I went to a leadership conference in Chicago as part of a professional organization I'm in, and a guy did. The guy sort of interrupted the meeting and did like an AI demo, and like a room full of very successful CEOs, a business of a significant size, like got out their phones and started recording it. And I was like, wait a minute, like I came here, like he's doing a relatively rudimentary AI workflow. And I was like, AI is utility, AI is a hammer. But like the wonder is like still very much
Yeah.
like not permeated. And so I think there's like, as long as I allow myself to go through the cycles, that's been helpful. And I do think writing down like how am I responding it today, and then trying to implement that has been like the most the most effective way for me at the moment. But if I don't form an opinion, I think I will observe too much.
Yeah.
But I just have to allow that opinion to have some freedom to morph. Is it's the
Yeah,
best way.
it's a really good call out because I think it is. I mean, I started a my latest Substack series 4 weeks ago, and I'm just sitting with it, and here I am saying I'm sharing this, and then I'm like, "Oh, actually, my thinking and thoughts changed,"
Yeah,
right?
I think I'm writing them to myself. Like I don't even know if like it matters if other people read them.
No,
I
I
think
agree.
they're informing my thoughts, and whether or not they're definitive or whether or not they're reflective. I sort of have described it in a couple and like to friends that it's sort of like vertigo. I think is the best English word that I can think of to describe my feeling of the space right now. Of like, I'm still aware of it, I'm still observing it, but like it feels like I'm turning sometimes, or it feels like I need to
Yeah,
respond to something, or I need to do something, and I think that's like a natural reaction to our space. And the exciting thing is I feel like the value of thinking is stronger than ever. The exciting thing is I think we are more empowered to do more work than ever. The exciting thing is the drudgery, the 80% can be removed.
yeah,
And so how do we use those things to, improve our businesses and
yeah.
to
It's
build new
really
products, service our category is like what an amazing time to be
Yeah,
alive,
and it's really interesting. Two things that pop up for me in terms of, your business only evolves as much as you evolve is my philosophy as well. In terms of, so as you're evolving, you are I mean, you're the founder. You're the like visionary, right? So like, and so
Yeah,
it's
yeah, people respond to like confident direction. And even if that direction is wrong, like, you know, I do believe it is important to like have convictions about what we're doing and why,
yeah,
and moving with people. But even when you do those things, sometimes it's hard. There's like inertia in organizations. There's inertia for using our virtual employee. There's inertia for using AI for more than meeting summaries.
yeah,
There's inertia in everything that we do in our organization, and that's on me to showcase why I think it's important and the organization in the way that I think will best respond to the market. And today, that's been, moving from uh, services delivery to providing software for the category that we can iterate and make special, as opposed to building everything from scratch. Because the delta from 0 to 100 is significant, but the delta from 70 to 100
yeah,
is insurmountable for
yeah.
the people that we work with.
Yeah, do you know what else is really fascinating? Like, playing in the fitness and wellness space, like I mean, it's a growing, I mean, you might say, oh, it feels like it's growing. There's this whole longevity piece to it. And I think about what you're talking about here and the role and what your business does going forward in Martech, for example. And where, it is a long game, right? Like there's this whole longevity piece and there's some really interesting sounds like some really interesting things that are brewing that you
Yeah,
probably
what a great metaphor even for like a health of businesses, right? Like we're working with on Longevity Center right now, and it's about understanding your body to respond with specific routines. And so, very much like in our business, I'm trying to understand my body. I'm trying to understand how our
Yeah,
business is being impacted by it, so that I can then apply the things that I think will make me healthy and live longer. But the longevity space is such an interesting category that is very nascent, but loud. Like I think people look at like the longevity experts and the the supplements and the peptides and everything that's sort of transforming in our space to sort of that exercise is no longer just movement, right? It is like a whole
no.
body a whole body program, and even looking at like large gym retailers like Lifetime here in the U.S. are looking to introduce semaglutide, and there are other boutique fitnesses that are adding supplements and products like that. The whole body wellness is definitely where our category is moving, and seeing people just doing a cycling or just doing Pilates is is like it feels like it's just one piece of the puzzle, and that it's
Great.
just evolving to where we're going, which is really whole body wellness.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and like a business, like a biology, human biology scales, right? And I look at businesses exactly the same way. Like you have to look at the whole body, and so for me, I think that yeah, everything we've been talking about here, if we only focus on one thing, and we're getting quite, like with AI and everything else, it's like hang on a second, is the whole body of the business healthy? And I just think there's a lot in that from Martech, like in totality. My background's in marketing communication, put that with tech. And it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just think there's so much, and I'm really excited for you, and where you're taking the sector, the industry, and where you're taking your business. I think it's a watch this space, if you like, that I see coming out from you. I think that.
Yeah, if we had this conversation in a year, I'll have maybe some very different answers, but
Well, yeah,
excited.
totally, totally. And so then my last, I guess, question for you is, what would be your advice when, for any founder, managing director in the place that you're in right now? What would be your advice for them in terms of like from I guess, is it to keep themselves sane, or what would be your one piece of
Yeah.
advice?
I'll give the advice that I often give to myself and to the team, and it's just do the most important thing next. I think
Yeah,
it's easy to look at the 14 steps down the road, and it's easy to look at like the impact of my business, but there's always something to do next, and there's always a ranking of that. Is for us, ingraining assisted work is our most important thing next, and that may not be the most important thing next for every company, but I think that's the only way that I can compartmentalize the evolving landscape right now is just write it down, prioritize, and do the most important thing next, and you will get to task 14 after the first 13.
yeah, I love it. And it's the same with when starting with a blank canvas, right? Do the first thing next
Yeah,
on blank canvas.
you still gotta like draw the first line, so
Yeah,
do it.
I love a blank canvas. So it's one of my favorite things in the world. Like some people are like, I don't know where to start. I'm like, just start.
Just anywhere. Yep.
Just
Just
choose anywhere.
just start. Yep.
How do we find out more about Comma8? Where do we go to read some of your articles that you have been sharing? Although you said you're mostly writing to yourself. I think quite often when
Yeah.
we write to
Yeah,
ourselves, a lot of
there's some musings on
relate.
Substack. Um, the it's Substack's called "When Simple Stops Working," so feel free to check that one out. And there's probably some hits and some misses in there, but at least you'll clearly understand the things that we're
Yeah.
wrestling with. And then of course, comma8.com is where our work product is. So always a good place to start.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. Like I said, I think it's just watch this space, and yeah, I'm excited for you. So,
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'll definitely get you back in 12 months time, or and see where you're at, see where I'm at. Like who knows what it's going to look
yeah,
like.
on a hopefully on a beach somewhere, and hopefully you'll be in Los Angeles.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, no, thank you so much. Have a wonderful end to the week, and yeah, take care.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.